They didn't even bother clowning me in person anymore. These days, anyone could broadcast humiliation to thousands with a few taps of a phone. I remember sitting in the kitchen, hunched over my battered laptop, suitcase already zipped shut for the last time, when my cousin Sarah's message popped up in the family WhatsApp. She had filmed the television, our local variety show, Curitiba M Foco, doing a bit on absurd career ambitions from our own people. The segment spliced my old TikTok interview alongside graphics of flaming game consoles and little pixelated chickens doing the samba. The host, with his smug grin and rolled sleeves, asked the audience, "Would you trust your son to chase these gringo dreams, or this?" And here he held up my blurry face. "Would you push them towards something, let's say, more real?" Laughter. The floodgate opened. My Uncle Paulo, whose worldview never extended beyond his mechanic shop, kept sending laughing crying emojis. All the aunts chimed in, clipping out the video, writing comments like, "At least it's not drugs," and "God gave you such a nice brain, Leo." Friends jumped on, sharing jokes in their Instagram stories. "Bom jogo ganho," they poked. "Lhe vai carregar o Brasil para Estádio Village." My stomach knotted and burned with equal parts humiliation and an increasingly numbing sort of anger. It had always been like this, or maybe just felt like it. Not once had anyone from our winding street in Alto de Gloria looked at me coding, headphones thick and tangled around my jaw, and said, "Why not?" Instead, they gave me that squinting stare, the one that says you're both sweet and stupid. Even my mother, who treasured the sight of me hunched over my work, worried endlessly about the rent, about what hungry years might do to a boy's dreams. I had made my peace with being the family joke, the Bonetinho de Informatica. But seeing myself mocked by an audience of strangers, their virtual laughter deafening, hit different. It made leaving easier somehow. I would take my battered Lenovo, my little library of design books, and that flickering ember of belief that I hadn't entirely lost, and go find somewhere outside this city that didn't laugh at late nights and wild ideas. That night, after the mockery had run its course and my phone screen was a graveyard of well-intentioned, "don't mind them" messages, I left. My bus ticket out of Curitiba was one way, stuttering north towards São Paulo, where I could lose myself in a sprawl of faces and languages and hope nobody recognized me off a TV screen. It rained the entire journey, the window fogged up with a kind of cleansing mist, and I let my anger dissolve into a sort of bitter serenity. Those first years were brutal, the kind that whittle a person down to their bones. I took contract work testing game assets, worked graveyard shifts on other developers' half-built dreams, and survived in an apartment so thin-walled I learned to fall asleep to the neighbors' midnight murmurs and fight songs. It was lonely, ugly work, but every rejection, every bug report and notice of services no longer required added fuel. I told myself there will be a moment, even if I have to drag it into being with raw hands. At night I chased my own vision, a world of pulsing neon Brazilian cityscapes, favelas pulsing with color and wild, dangerous stories, not the sanitized Rio or São Paulo of postcards, but places kids like me recognized from dusk rides on the city bus, from the taste of cold pastel at midnight. I called it Vira-Lata for the wiry, brave stray dogs that nipped at our markets and shadowed our lives. I coded until veins pulsed fire in my hands and time stopped meaning much. Nobody, least of all my family, knew what I was building. Their updates arrived in bursts, always asking when I'd give up, return for something safe, take a cousin's job offer, or help with the car repairs, with the housework, with whatever. I learned to reply politely but briefly. There was nothing I could say to make them see. There was only doing. 3 years after that viral ridicule, Vira-Lata was almost finished. It was part fever dream, part love letter, part revenge manifesto. I'd read somewhere that the best games were just conversations with your worst doubts, a space to say the things you could never say aloud. I poured everything they'd laughed at into the world, little tributes tucked into alley graffiti, hidden lines of dialogue echoing what family had thrown at me in real life. The soundtrack spilled with local beats, the arcades and dusty street corners pulsing to a rhythm only people who truly lived in Brazil would recognize. The night I uploaded the demo to itch.io, it felt like stepping out after years in a cave. Then nothing happened. For days, just a handful of random downloads and a few polite comments. I started to think maybe this was it, maybe the family was right. I might die the internet's punchline instead of its prodigy. Still, I kept answering bugs, fixing shading, dealing with pasta stains and mouse glitches, until one morning my phone whistled itself alive. It was an American streamer, a real one with millions behind her, a shock of blue hair and a tendency to lose control laughing on camera. She played Vira-Lata live, screeching wonder at every stray dog, every line of colloquial dialogue. She wept during the alley fight scene, then raved about the hidden samba club. The clip went everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Telegram, the diaspora found it and latched on. Brazilian kids sent me videos of themselves playing in internet cafes, struggling to explain to old shopkeepers why this mattered. Reporters started calling. I spoke to a camera for the first time in my life, stammering in disbelief while trying not to cry, trying not to hate the laughter I still heard lurking in the back of my mind. Money seeped in first on Steam, then stores I never dreamed I'd see my name in. Offers came, invitations to speak and collaborate, to license characters, to work on councils I'd never heard of. Through it all, I felt the anger softening, a new calm settling in, serenity maybe earned or accidental, but home was still a shadow at the edge of every victory. I watched family WhatsApp get quieter, watched the relatives' jokes stall and dwindle. Now one or two would timidly message, "How are you?" as if apologizing without the words. By the time the City Council of Curitiba called, asking me to headline a local event for young entrepreneurs, I felt nothing but a strange peace. The invitation came stamped with official logos and full of careful politeness. They wanted to host a showcase, my name, my journey, my work plastered on posters and digital billboards around the city. "This will inspire our community," the mayor's office wrote, careful not to mention the TV segment, "The Years of Public Mockery." I considered deleting the email. Instead, I accepted. Some doors you just have to walk back through as yourself. I landed in Afonso Pena Airport at midnight, the city stretching itself out under cold sodium lights and low, bruised clouds. My hands shook a little as I stepped outside, not from fear but from recognition. The city smelled of pine sap, diesel, rain on cobblestones. I took a moment to breathe it all in, home but not quite the same boy returning. My mother met me at arrivals. Years had creased her eyes and hope seemed more fragile in her smile. She hugged me so tightly I could feel every rib in her chest. Her voice was softer than I remembered but steadier too. "You look tired, Philho, but you look happy," she whispered. We drove home past familiar storefronts and bus stops. Even at this hour, stray dogs trotted through the shadows just like in my game. My mother pointed things out, nervous. Here was where the bakery had burned down, there was where the council had installed new bright lights, so you can't even see the stars at night. Life had moved on without me, but it waited too. The next morning I woke at dawn, the rustling cough of my uncle's ancient Fiat echoing from the driveway. Breakfast was the same, a little more store-bought, a little less homemade. Aunt Rosa bustled in just before 7, arms full of oranges, bursting into tears as soon as she saw me. The family had shrunk and grown at once, another cousin pregnant, someone battling cancer, someone running for small-time office, all of them talking at me in anxious bursts. It was almost easy, the banter, the laughter, them tiptoeing around the past, but I saw the looks they tried not to give, sideways, tentative, unsure how to treat the prodigal loser suddenly made good. Midday was for press. I showed up at the municipal building, the plaza crowded with city workers, teachers, and just enough local journalists to make me sweat. I stood on a makeshift stage with a cluster of nervous kids and board officials. The mayor herself shook my hand, smiling too widely. "This is the pride of Curitiba, our own Leonardo bringing our world to the global stage," she declared. The applause felt like rain, cool and distant but real. The real test would be that night. My mother insisted on a dinner, one of those vast, teeming affairs where every relative within 5 kilometers materialized, each bearing a dish and a burning curiosity. The house overflowed. Kids darted between the sofa legs, old men caromed beers across the dining table, and my cousins eyed me as if I'd stepped straight off the news. "Give us a speech, Leo," Sarah called, only half mocking now. The others cheered her on. I stood, nerves stinging, holding a glass of Guaraná. The faces staring back were older, weathered, distant cousins and aunts I barely remembered. "I don't have a speech," I started, feeling the old anger flicker but not catch. "I just wanted to come home. I wanted to thank all of you. Even when you made fun of me, you gave me something to prove. You kept me honest." They laughed, a nervous, uneven sound. "Maybe you still think it's silly making games." Maybe it is, but I got to show the world a bit of us, a bit of this street, these stories, our music, our mess. Uncle Paulo, arms crossed and still skeptical, called out, "But can you really live from this, Leo? Is it really work?" He always was the sharpest spur in the side. I didn't smile. Instead, I walked to my bag, pulled out a square, lacquered box. Inside, nestled in blue velvet, was the International Indie Games Award, my name laser-etched on the gold in neat, unshowy letters. I set it in the center of the table, beside the half-eaten roast chicken. They crowded around, quiet now. Paulo picked it up, surprisingly gentle, turning it over in his grease-stained hands. Sarah took a photo, then another, her earlier mischief dissolving into awe. My younger cousins snapped pictures, Instagram stories already building with captions, Mu primo e acute o melhor do mundo, and Orgulho de Curitiba. I let the serenity slide over me, soft and cooling. For once, I didn't need to argue to defend what I loved. I simply existed, surrounded by the ones who'd mocked me, now bearing witness to hard, stubborn grace made solid, a weight in the hand, proof that laughter could sometimes be turned into gold. Later that evening, as the dinner disintegrated into old songs, mother's laments, and the shrimp shelling of midnight, I slipped outside. The street was quiet, stray dogs padding by in half-light. My mother joined me, her arm looped through mine. "I knew it would be you," she whispered. "No, you worried, you always worried." "That too," she smiled. I watched the lights stretch across the city, the office towers to the north, the shimmer of distant altitudes, the ever-present drone of buses and scooters. Somewhere children were playing games I had made in places I would never see. People may never truly stop laughing at dreams, I thought. But sometimes, if you keep building, you get to come home and show them your hands, still trembling, still alive, still stubborn. And maybe that's enough, so I stood in the blue night air, bathed in the music of lives tangled together for better or worse. For the first time there was no anger, only the even, patient calm of having gone away, struggled and returned, here at the edge of future laughter, willing finally to let it be.